Lerato, look! There is money under my pillow.
Morin, it's money, real money. We are rich.
Once upon a time in a crowded waterside community by the lagoon, where houses stood on weak wooden pillars and the wind always smelled of fish and smoke, lived two young women named Morin and Lorato. The people in this area were poor. Every day looked the same, long, difficult, and tiring. But even in the middle of their hardship, Morin and Lerato stayed close like sisters. They shared everything, their laughter, their hunger, their tears, and even their last coin. Morin was calm and thoughtful, always simple. She didn't speak too much, but she observed everything. She believed that one day, life would reward patience and wisdom. Lerato was loud, playful, full of dreams, and always talking about the life she wished she had. She hated poverty with her whole heart and often said she was born for something bigger than the waterside settlement. She loved fashion more than anything, even when she had no money. She could use her last coin to buy a scarf, cheap lipstick, or a second-hand dress just to look presentable. Even when going to the fish docks or carrying buckets at the river, she still wore a small touch of elegance, a ribbon, a bracelet, or a pink hair tie. Her favorite color was pink, and she always said that a woman should look like where she is going, not where she is. Every morning, before the sun fully rose, they walked to the docks to help fishermen. They washed nets, sorted fish, carried heavy trays, and cleaned bucket after bucket until their palms were sore and smelling strongly of fish oil. Sometimes they worked in the burning sun. Other times, in cold salty breeze that made their fingers numb. But they had no other option. This was how they survived. After working by the docks, they would rush to the market to sell leftover fish bones, pepper, and tiny scraps others did not want. Some days they sold well. Other days they returned home with nothing but tired bodies and a single plate of shared food. That evening, after finishing their work, the two girls sat near the water to rest. Morin stretched her tired feet while Lerato complained loudly as usual. "Morin," she said, breathing hard, "one day I will leave this place. I will not live among broken wood and leaking roofs forever. I will buy fine clothes, spray nice perfume, and eat soft bread every morning. My life will not end here." Morin smiled gently. "One day," she replied, "but we must be patient. The road to a better life is slow." Lerato laughed. "Slow? This life is crawling like a sick snail. I want a miracle. I want something big, something fast." Morin did not argue. She only looked at the water, watching the light reflect on it like scattered gold. The sky was turning orange. People were already hanging lanterns and closing their small stalls. The evening breeze blew gently across their faces. For a moment, everything was quiet and peaceful. Then, slowly, Morin noticed something strange. The sound of the waves had gone quiet. Too quiet. The lagoon was never silent. There were always children shouting, fishermen shouting, boats creaking, always something. But at that moment, it felt as if the world had paused. Morin frowned slightly and touched Lerato's arm. "Do you hear that?" "Hear what?" Lerato asked. "There is no sound, nothing." Lerato looked around and noticed it too. A strange stillness had covered the whole place, like the air itself was holding its breath. It was not a normal silence. It felt like something was watching them. Lerato shook her head quickly and stood up. "Let's go, Morin. This kind of silence is not ordinary. Before night comes and mosquitoes start singing in my ears." They lifted their small baskets and began to walk along the narrow wooden path back to their little room. What they did not know was that their lives had already started to change. The silence was not just silence, it was a sign. Something had taken interest in them. Something old. Something powerful. From that night onward, their journey would no longer be the same. The next day began like every other day. Before sunrise, Morin and Lerato were already awake, washing their faces with cold water from a plastic bowl and tying their wrappers tightly around their waists. Their room was small, just 2 mattresses on the floor and a weak curtain that fluttered whenever the wind blew through the cracks of their wooden walls. They hurried to the docks again. The fishermen had just returned from the night's catch, and the air was filled with the strong smell of salt and smoke. Morin carried heavy nets while Lerato sorted fish into baskets, her face squeezed in discomfort. "I swear," Lerato muttered, "if I ever get rich, I will never go near fish again." Morin only laughed softly. They worked until their backs ached and their hands hurt. When they finally received their small payment, they decided to buy a plate of gari and soup to share later, since it was the cheapest thing they could afford. By the time they finished their errands for the day and began to head home, the sun was already dipping lower in the sky. They walked slowly along the wooden pathway near the edge of the lagoon, trying not to spill the food they carried in a small plastic bowl. As they passed a lonely bend on the waterside footbridge, they noticed something unusual. Just beneath a crooked palm tree, sitting alone on a low wooden stool, was an old woman. Her clothes were faded, her wrapper torn at the edges, and her eyes looked tired, like someone who had carried sorrow for many years. She raised her head weakly when she saw them. "My children," she whispered, her voice shaky and faint. "Please, do either of you have some food to spare? I have not eaten since yesterday." Morin stopped immediately. The woman looked weak, her hands were trembling, and her lips were dry. But Lerato hesitated. "Morin," she whispered under her breath, "think about it, this is our only food. If we share it, we will go hungry tonight." Morin looked at her with concern. "But look at her, Lerato. She might collapse if she stays like this. We can still work tomorrow and eat." "But she is old." Lerato frowned. "Morin, if we keep sharing the little we have, how will our life change? We also need strength. We suffered all day to buy this." Morin did not argue further. She simply opened the plastic bowl, scooped a portion of the meal, and gently placed it in the old woman's hands. The woman looked at the food as though it was a gift from heaven. Tears filled her eyes. "Bless you, my daughter," she whispered. Lerato stood there with folded arms, uncomfortable but still watching. "You can eat from my own share," Morin told Lerato quietly. Lerato reluctantly sighed and also gave a small portion, but with a frown on her face. "Well, just know I'm giving from my food," she said sharply, "and I'm only doing it because Morin will disturb me if I don't." The old woman nodded slowly and began to eat. Every bite looked painful but grateful, like food was medicine to her bones. When she finished, she wiped her mouth gently and reached into a tiny cloth pouch tied at her waist. From it, she removed 2 little clay coins, smooth and round like river stones. She placed one in Morin's hand, and the other in Lerato's. "Take this," she said quietly. "Put it under your pillow tonight. And remember, what it brings you will not last forever. Use it wisely." Morin and Lerato looked at each other in confusion. "Is this?" Lerato began to speak, but paused. "It's just a coin," she muttered under her breath. But still, they thanked the woman. As they continued walking home, Lerato rolled her eyes. "Morin, we should have just walked past. We need help, she needs help, so who should help who? Poor people helping poor people is like an empty cup trying to fill another empty cup." Morin did not raise her voice. "Still, we did the right thing," she answered simply. They reached home tired, ate the small portion left, and crawled into bed. Out of curiosity, they each placed the coin under their pillows. Neither of them knew what was about to happen. Neither of them understood that the woman was not a beggar at all. She was something else. Something watching them. Something testing them. Before sleep took them, Morin whispered softly into the night. "Let tomorrow be better than today." But tomorrow would be more than better. It would change everything. That night was ordinary, nothing strange happened, no sign, no dream. The girls slept like every other night, tired and curled up on their thin mattresses. But the miracle came in the morning. The first thing Morin noticed when she woke up was that her pillow felt heavy, much heavier than usual. At first, she thought maybe her neck had stiffened from bad sleep. But when she lifted the pillow, she froze. Under the pillow was a big pile of shiny coins, more than she had ever seen in her entire life. They were clean, bright, and stacked like treasure. Morin gasped so loudly that Lerato woke up in fright. "What is it? Why are you shouting?" But before Lerato could finish her sentence, she also lifted her own pillow. She screamed, "My pillow! Look! Morin, look!" Her bed too was filled with shiny coins, more than she could count. The two of them stared at each other in disbelief. For a moment, they were silent, not out of fear, but out of shock. Then Lerato jumped to her feet and began laughing uncontrollably. "Morin, we are rich. Rich. Do you understand? We are no longer poor. This is money. Real money." She threw some in the air like confetti. Morin was happy too, but she was calmer. She stared at the coins and slowly remembered the old woman's exact words. "Use it wisely, it will not last forever." A warning wrapped inside a blessing. Lerato, however, did not remember the warning, or she pretended not to. That day, instead of going to the docks, they stayed indoors and counted the coins. It was so much money that their wooden bowl could not contain it. They filled 2 bags and still had some left. Lerato began pacing with excitement. "Morin, I told you. I told you God had not forgotten us. Look at me today, poverty is finished in my life." Morin smiled softly. "Yes, but we must think carefully before spending anything. This is opportunity. Instead of rushing, we should plan." "Plan?" Lerato laughed. "My sister, you plan when you are broke. When you have money, you enjoy life." Morin sighed gently. "Enjoying life is not wrong, but we must also build something that will last, so we will not return to suffering again." Lerato waved her hand dismissively. "Morin, I have suffered for too long. I am done with thinking small. From today, I am living like a queen. I will buy new clothes, new shoes, perfume, wigs, everything." Morin looked at her friend quietly. "Lerato, let's first rent a better room, start a small business. Something stable. If we invest now, we will never go hungry again." But Lerato shook her head with bright, excited eyes. "No. I have waited too long for enjoyment. This is my season to shine." The next morning, Lerato wasted no time. She marched out of the slum and went straight to the big market in the upper part of town. She bought expensive dresses, gold-colored sandals, long braided wigs, shiny earrings, and perfume. She walked back into the settlement swinging her shopping bags proudly. People stared. Children pointed. Some neighbors even whispered, "Is that not Lerato? How did she suddenly get money? She looks too fine, too bright. That is not normal." By the next day, she bought more clothes and more accessories. She started eating in big food stalls, buying rich meals and meat. She painted her nails, styled her hair, and wore flowing gowns that made her look like she did not belong in the slum anymore. Meanwhile, Morin moved differently. She went quietly into town and rented a small wooden stall near the bigger market. She used part of her coins to buy bags of pepper, onions, and dry fish to sell. She started slowly, learning how to bargain, how to gain customers, how to turn small profit into growing savings. But Lerato told her she was thinking too small. "Why will you suffer yourself again in market when you now have money?" she asked. And Morin answered gently, "I am not suffering. I am building." Lerato rolled her eyes. By the end of the first week, their lives were already going in opposite directions. Lerato was shining on the outside. Morin was building quietly from the inside. At night, Lerato placed the coin under her pillow again, and it multiplied again the next morning. And she said to herself, "Why save when I can always get more tomorrow?" But Morin did not sleep with the coin again. She kept it safely and focused on growing her business. She remembered the old woman's warning. Lerato did not. And slowly, a thin, invisible line formed between the two friends. Not of hatred, but of different hearts. One was thinking of tomorrow. The other was busy celebrating today. Neither of them knew that the season of testing was not yet over. For some weeks, everything looked perfect for Lerato. Every morning, she woke up to more coins. She no longer walked with Morin to the docks. She no longer rushed to the market to sell scraps or bargain for pepper. She now bought cooked food, clean water, soft bread, and fresh fish as a customer, not as a helper. People in the neighborhood started greeting her differently. Those who once ignored her now smiled at her. Some even pretended to be close friends. Everywhere she passed, eyes followed her, some admiring, some jealous, some suspicious. Meanwhile, Morin's life was also changing, but quietly. Her small market stall was growing. She reinvested her profits and began to buy goods in larger quantities. She was still living simple, but she no longer struggled for food. She saved more than she spent. And every evening, she returned home with tired feet but with peace in her heart. But one morning, something unusual happened. Before Lerato opened her eyes, she reached under her pillow as she always did, expecting to feel the heavy weight of new coins. But her hand touched nothing. She sat up quickly, confused. She lifted the pillow. No coins. She checked again. Still nothing. At first she laughed nervously. "Maybe I slept on the wrong side," she whispered to herself. She searched the bed, nothing. Then a small panic began to rise in her chest. She waited until evening and placed the coin under her pillow again, hoping maybe the magic would return the next morning. But the next day, still nothing. The magic had stopped. At first, Lerato told herself it was just a delay. She continued spending from the coins she already had. She still bought fancy food and new clothes, but after a few days, her savings began to shrink quickly. She tried not to think about it. But after 2 weeks, the coins were almost gone. The same neighbors who once praised her began to watch her closely. Some whispered behind her back. I knew it would not last. Money without work disappears fast. Something is not adding up. She does not trade, yet she spends like a queen. The attention that once felt sweet now felt heavy and embarrassing. Slowly, Lerato started hiding when going to buy food. She stopped dressing too flashy. She avoided conversations. When her last small bag of coins finally finished, she stayed indoors the whole day, staring at the wall. She did not know what to do. She had no business. No backup plan. Nothing saved. Her pride began to break. The next day, she tried selling a few of the clothes she had bought, but nobody in the slum wanted them, and those who did wanted to pay her far less than she spent. Some even mocked her with fake pity. "We knew it wouldn't last. She thought she has arrived. Now she wants to sell to us. She should sell in the rich part of town." But in the rich part of town, nobody bought from unknown street girls. Lerato sat by herself for many days, crying silently. Shame swallowed her voice. She could not sleep. She could not focus. The only thing she felt was regret, big regret. She remembered Morin's words. "Let us invest now so we do not return to suffering." But she had refused. Meanwhile, Morin's market stall had now grown into a small shop. She had hired a young helper girl to assist her. Customers trusted her because she was honest and calm. Even traders in the bigger market respected her because she was disciplined with money. She was not rich yet, but she was secure. One evening, as Morin returned home, she found Lerato sitting outside their shared room, hugging her knees, eyes swollen from crying. For a long moment, Lerato could not speak. She wiped her face, but the tears returned. With a heavy voice, she whispered, "Morin, I have failed." Morin sat beside her quietly. Lerato finally released everything in her chest. "I thought the money would last forever. I thought I had escaped suffering. I spent like someone who believed tomorrow could never change. I forgot myself. I forgot where we came from. I forgot wisdom." She lowered her head. "Morin, I have nothing left." Her voice broke again. Not even enough to start over. Morin placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I warned you, not because I wanted to stop your happiness, but because I wanted your happiness to survive tomorrow." Lorato trembled as the pain sank deeper. "Please, help me," she whispered. "I don't know how to begin again." Morin took a slow breath. "You can begin where I began," she said softly. "Beside me, in the market. I will show you what I have learned. It won't be fast, Lerato. But it will be real." Lerato looked at her with surprise. You will help me?" Morin nodded gently. True friends do not only share food. They also share lessons. That night, Lerato cried again, but this time, not from shame. From relief. What she had lost was money. What she still had was someone who had never left her side. But their journey was not yet finished. Because soon, the truth will be revealed. Weeks passed, and Lerato started working with Morin in the market. Little by little, she began to understand the business. Morin taught her gently, step by step, how to buy in bulk, how to measure profit, when to save, and how to gain the trust of customers. At first, people didn't take Lerato seriously, but as time went by, they saw her effort. Some even believed she had truly changed. Every evening after market work, they walked home together like before. They laughed again. They cooked together again. They shared stories before sleeping. To everyone around them, it looked like the friendship was restored. And in Morin's heart, she believed Lerato had truly learned her lesson. She even started trusting her enough to show her where she kept her remaining coins, the ones she didn't spend stored carefully in a small hidden wooden box under their bed. Morin believed that if Lerato saw how carefully she saved, she too would learn to be patient. But what Morin did not know was that Lerato was only pretending. She was not satisfied with small progress. Every night when she laid down to sleep, she remembered the luxury she once enjoyed: the new clothes, fine perfumes, rich meals, and attention from people. Deep down, she didn't want to learn slowly, she wanted to rise quickly. Not through work, but through another shortcut. So each day in the market, as Morin taught her business, Lerato watched something else quietly. She studied Morin's routine, her hiding place, her counting method, the hours she left the house, and who she trusted. She was patient. She waited. She waited until Morin trusted her completely. One evening, Morin told her, "Lerato, I am proud of you. I think now we can start planning to expand the business. When I buy new stock tomorrow morning, I will add your name to the supplier's ledger so you will also be recognized." Lerato smiled and hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Morin," she said softly. But her heart was not soft at all. That night, Morin slept early, exhausted from buying and lifting bags all day. Lerato remained awake. She sat up quietly on the bed, looked at Morin sleeping peacefully, and then her eyes slowly moved toward the wooden box under the bed. The same box that held all the wealth Morin had saved. She hesitated only for a moment. Then greed drowned her conscience. She slowly, carefully dragged the box out, opened it, and stared at the piles of shining coins. Her breathing became heavy. "This is my second chance," she whispered to herself. "I won't waste it this time. I will go far. I will leave this place and never struggle again." She stuffed the coins into a sack, wore her clothes tightly, wore her slippers. Then she looked at Morin one last time. Morin was still sleeping peacefully, trusting her, believing in her, defending her. Lerato turned away before guilt could weaken her. She slipped out of the room quietly, walked down the wooden bridge path, and disappeared into the night. Without goodbye, without explanation, without shame. By the time Morin woke up the next morning, Lerato was gone, and so were all her life savings. The betrayal was complete. What Morin had built with patience over months, Lerato had stolen in one night. And this time, the wound cut deeper than poverty. It cut the heart. Morning came slowly, and Morin stretched her tired arms, ready to prepare for the day. She touched the floor to pull out her wooden savings box. But her hand met empty space. She blinked. She searched again. Nothing. Her chest tightened. She pulled the mattress aside. Nothing. She searched under the bed frame, behind their small table, inside their clothes basket. Gone. Then her eyes slowly shifted toward the empty sleeping space beside her. Lerato's mat was gone too. No shoes. No wrapper. No bag. It was as if she had never lived there. Morin sat slowly on the floor. At first, she couldn't cry. Shock froze her body, her mind trying to understand what her heart already knew. The girl she helped. The girl she forgave. The girl she trusted again. Had stolen everything. Not just the money. Her trust. Her hope. Their friendship. After a few minutes, her hands began to shake. Tears finally poured down her face, slow at first, then heavy. It was not the loss of money that pained her most. It was betrayal. She cried quietly, hugging her knees, asking herself why kindness always seemed to be punished in this world. Meanwhile, Lorato was already far away in another part of the city where no one knew her. She rented a small room for a few days and hid the stolen coins. She promised herself she would use it wisely this time. But greed speaks the same language everywhere. The first thing she did was return to the big market, not to trade, but to spend. She bought wigs, gold earrings, new gowns, perfumes again. She even visited a big restaurant and paid for expensive meals. And slowly, just like before, the coins began to finish. Again. Back at the waterside, people started asking Morin, "Where is your friend? We haven't seen her. Is she sick?" Morin did not tell anyone the truth. She didn't want gossip. She didn't want pity. She only said softly, she traveled. But inside, she was breaking. Still, Morin did not stop working. She refused to let betrayal destroy her future. She spoke to her suppliers, explained that she needed time to rebuild. Because they trusted her character, not her money, many allowed her to take goods on credit, something they would never have done for Lerato. Morin slowly returned to the market, starting all over again, this time with a stronger heart. She rebuilt, not with coins, but with character. Lerato, however, soon faced what she had escaped the first time. Loneliness. Because stolen wealth is never stable. Within weeks, everything was gone again. And now she was alone in a strange place with no friend, no support, and no business foundation. One morning, when she finally reached under her pillow, wishing foolishly for another miracle, there was nothing. Just an empty mat. And a heavy silence she could not run from. That was when she understood. Money can fill your purse, but trust fills your future. Coins without character become sand in the wind. One evening, after hunger pushed her to tears, Lerato decided to return to the waterside secretly. Not to apologize, but to steal again, this time from Morin's new stock. She waited until late in the night and crept toward the small market section near the lagoon. But just when she reached Morin's new stall, two men from the community vigilant group caught sight of her. "Hey, you there. What are you doing?" Startled, she tried to run but slipped on a wet plank and fell hard. The guards rushed to restrain her. In the struggle, the sack she carried opened, and people in the night market recognized her. "Is that not Lerato? She came to steal again." So she didn't travel, she ran away. She was humiliated publicly. Now the entire truth spread, not by Morin, but by Lerato's own actions. Fear and shame swallowed her. Nobody defended her. Nobody stood by her. Because you cannot destroy the bridge of trust and expect someone to carry you across the river. ****. The next day, Morin was told what happened. When she saw Lerato sitting in the corner of the settlement with swollen eyes and dusty clothes, she did not hate her. She did not insult her. She simply said, "Lerato, you did not lose because life is unfair. You lost because you believed shortcuts are faster than growth. But shortcuts lead back to the beginning." Tears rolled down Lerato's cheeks. "Please. I have nowhere left to go." Morin looked at her for a long time, the kind of look that carried pain, memory, and wisdom. "I will not hate you," she said slowly. "But I cannot trust you again. Trust is not given twice. It is rebuilt slowly, with proof." Then she stood and walked away. Not with anger, but with clarity. Lerato finally realized, it was never poverty that destroyed her life. It was her choices. Morin rose higher because she focused on building. Lerato fell twice because she focused on escaping. The waterside later whispered their story, mothers told it to daughters, traders told it to young apprentices. Blessing in the wrong hands becomes a curse. Wealth without discipline collapses twice as fast. A greedy friend is more dangerous than hunger. And from that day, Morin became known not only as the hard-working trader, but as the young woman who protected her life from betrayal and rebuilt her future through wisdom. While Lerato became the lesson nobody wanted to copy. Wealth does not change a person, it only reveals who they already are. Blessings grow in the hands of the disciplined, but disappear where there is greed and impatience. If you enjoyed this story and learned something from it, please like this video, subscribe, comment, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that wisdom is greater than quick riches. See you in the next story. Thank you for watching.